Hey everybody, I'm just going through today making a card wallet from start to finish. So things are a little bit sped up here. I'm kind of going to talk through about how I go about making wallets. So here I start off with a straight edge, and then I take my pattern pieces, use a bump jig. I got this idea from Mask on Leather. He's probably my favorite person to watch make leather wallets. Just a lot easier. You kind of just set it and it's all straight edges. Obviously it'll change a little bit when you have curves and things like that, but makes things faster. Things are more exact, and you can replicate the same wallet over and over, which is really nice. So I'm basically just going through getting my edges set here, and then especially when I have multiple pieces that are the same length or width, I can keep using that large piece to cut another section. So like here I have my one side, and then I get to just cut another side right away right here. So now we'll look and see how I go about cutting out curves and things like that. So this is pretty much the same as the other two sides that were identical earlier. So this piece so far is the exact same, and you'll see here that I take the bump jig or edge setter, and then I have that pattern flush against the leather, and then all I'm doing is tracing with a scratch awl, and then I just go ahead and cut. You'll see here that I'm using a Dremel. Most of the time I will do just normal hand sanding. So I got this block sander, which really sped things up, and then I'm not burning my fingers because of the friction between the leather and the sandpaper, but it also speeds things up. And I have different grits that I use. So I normally start out with like a 240, then up to 600, and then I'll hand sand with 1,000. At this point, we're going through and doing edges. I went through with the edge beveler from Palo Santo, and now I'm just going through with, I have some Toconol mixed with water. I just burnished those with some canvas. Here I'm just using this pattern piece to line up my T-pocket. So now that the T-pocket's there, I just mark where I want the glue to go, and then I use an edge rough or a leather rougher to rough up the edges so I get a better adhesion between each piece of leather. And then I'm just putting some Siwa leather glue down, hitting it with just a normal hammer so I get a nice strong contact point. At the bottom here, we're just doing a small stitch run just so we have our cards stop at the high pocket, because otherwise it'll all kind of go down and be in the same area. So you want this part raised, so this will catch here, and this will technically be the bottom of the T-pocket. So now we're going to put down our other pocket. It's oversized. This wallet that I make is partially from a quarter leather pattern that he made that I started off with, but I made some adjustments and just to kind of make it to something that I like and what I would use, which the pattern is great, and it's one of the things that got me into leather. So I would definitely recommend going to pick that up if you wanted. His patterns are really inexpensive and they're really helpful. And this one's been with me for 2-3 years now that I just keep using over and over. Here I'm just cutting off the extra edges, which is trim tolerance, which I've also learned from quarter. So now I know that I have nice flat edges on each side. Here, this is the inside of the wallet. So these pockets I'm going to go ahead and sand down before moving forward and doing our stitch line, and then also burnishing the edges. I pretty much only saddle stitch. Sometimes I'll do it like on my desk just with my two hands, but for longer stitch runs, I like to just throw it on my stitching pony. I just have a cheap stitching pony from Amazon, and then with my dad's help, I have it attached to two other pieces of wood, so my feet are on top of it, keeping it stable, and then I can move it when needed. So now we're just cutting off the excess from the pockets. They're oversized, so we can just cut that off, and then we have a flush edge up top. And I always like rounded corners, so I just have this nice little corner knife. I can't remember where I got it. I think maybe Rocky Mountain, but that's been really helpful to have consistent corners. And then here I'm going through again, doing some sanding, starting off with 240 grit. The Dremel it's so nice for larger pieces and pieces where sometimes you're kind of off a little bit, so being able to sand them down so everything is flush is really helpful. And then I'm finishing off here with 1000 grit, just hand sanding it down, making sure that everything is nice and smooth, to make sure that our edges are burnished really nicely and you get that smooth, glassy look. Here we're just going through and making our stitch lines. So after my stitch lines are ready, I'm not actually hitting my stitching chisels all the way through the leather. I'm just getting an idea on where I want each stitch hole to be. So if I do see a point where I'm getting too close to an edge or anything like that, I can always reposition before actually punching the holes all the way through. So now I'm actually punching through the leather completely, and it makes it a lot easier because now I know where I need to go. There's a little bit of a divot, so you can kind of just set the stitching chisels in where you previously hit in just slightly, and then you punch all the way through. Now all that's left is burnishing our edges. So I put on some Tokonol, then we're burnishing with the canvas. And that'll give us a nice, smooth, glassy finish.